Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday Supplement Live. A quick introduction for those who are joining us for the first time. We have Mr. Ross Harper, multiple business entrepreneur type person, focus on property, big into his auctions, his developments, loves a little bit of a difficult life, but he's a charming personality either way. Got Mr. Adam Lawrence, brain of Britain, the future Prime Minister or head of the Exchequer. We haven't decided yet. Either way, big portfolio landlord based in the Midlands, and Adam, along with Ross and a couple of other phenomenal people, have set up a community called Partners in Property, of which myself and Piotr used to host the London event, and of which Helen is still a member, I think, of Partners in Property.
I certainly am.
We're big fans, the lot of us. Obviously, let's not skip out Helen. Helen is a serial investor, former superstar on the trading floor at JP Morgan Chase, or I haven't lied there, have I? So
No.
one of them. There we go. So there you go. Helen is also a regular contributor to Property Investor News magazine, as well as being on about 15 property TV channels at the same time, which is brilliant because we all love hearing and seeing Helen. She's brilliant. Then you've got Piotr, who's my business partner, co-author of Before the Hammer Falls. We also trade properties, not at the same volume as the two preceding gentlemen in the call, but we do quite well. We also run a couple of events based around auctions and property, and we just have a real good time. And that kind of throws me in on that patch as well today. And I did put a little bit of emphasis on Partners in Property, but today we are talking about community in property. This is going to be a rather shortish call, but it should be packed to the full, to the brim, to the rim of everything that you need to know about finding the right kind of environment for you to flourish and succeed and support other people in property. So we're going to start off with community. And I think probably let Adam kick off with this one because you're more directly focused on the community's element of setting up a property group.
Well, that's it. I was lucky enough to meet Ross at a private networking event some years ago now, and it was a brilliant thing, and it'd been put together really painstakingly. Someone had bothered to kind of vet people from all over the UK to try and sort of pass the sharks out from the good souls, really. And somehow Ross and I still got through the door, but there you go. But it was a fantastic event, and my only regret really is that the trouble is once that had been done once, it's kind of an ongoing job for someone realistically to keep bringing new blood, finding new topics to talk about, just straightforwardly the logistics of organising the meeting, and then of course inevitably, like anything, little bits of politics creep into it, which are relatively pointless and don't do anyone any favours. So. It did a great thing for me. Not only did it introduce me to Ross, it also introduced me to several other people who I still do business with to this day. I'm very, very grateful for that. But it didn't have longevity. It didn't have strategic direction. And so I thought, right, well, that's what we need to do. And that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then the chance came up. And that's why, along with Sue, I thought I needed a business partner who was just tireless and, wears a heart on a sleeve and really cares about people and knows so many people. I mean, when Sue sends out a text message to all, that's like 1.6 million people or something like that. It's insane. And just wanted to create something that had a broader, more long-term focus and had those bits in any business that you need, really, including marketing, ultimately. And so that's how sort of PIP came about, so it could have that longevity feel. But very quickly, we realised it was more than just a meeting. And the thing that always frustrated me about the meetings was, you got a speaker to come along. That was good. It was varying quality, if we're honest. Sometimes fantastic, sometimes not so good. You'd have a few sponsors who would obviously be pitching services. You understand that. It's a business environment, no problem with that. And then you'd have people, and it would really depend on who they marketed at, whether it was brand new to property because they wanted to sell them a course because they were brand new to property, all the way through to, here's a talk tonight from someone about incorporating large portfolios. You're going to get some good people in the room, so it varies. And of course you want that variability, because even people who are brand new, sometimes it's really useful to talk to them because they're not constrained by any things that are in their mind that might hold them back. And they ask those questions, and you think, I've not asked myself that question in 5 years. Why have I not asked myself that question in 5 years? Really, really helpful. But beyond that one meeting a month or whatever it works out as, we realized quickly there was a lot of want and there's a lot of value in this game. It can be quite lonely. You sometimes don't talk to friends that you might have been friends with for 40 years about what you do. And then also your family don't necessarily support, approve, etc., etc. And so a group of like-minded people is worth an awful lot. And so it became more of a community feel, so that there was still connection after the meeting. So rather than the buzz the night before and then the buzz the day after, and then sort of it subsided like a wave, it's trying to create something where there's a continual and gradual and sustainable rise upwards in the power of that community. And that's what PIP grew into very nicely, because anyone who knows Sue and I well knows that we're kind of both went to the Ready, Fire, Aim School of Business. So we didn't sit down and write a detailed 5-year strategic plan when we started PIP. We just cracked on with it. We had a room, we had people, we thought we could do something interesting, and we just did it. And then it evolved. Then we got people who've run big and proper brains involved, people like Ross, and said, well, actually, how do we then, for example, pertinent to the Assemble company, how do we go to London? Because, we're the kings of Birmingham, you know that, right? And, the sage of Solihull and the queen of Birmingham, dead easy round here. But how do you make an impact in such a, and anybody who goes networking in London knows there are some serious quality, heavyweight, independent networking events that have got a decade behind them. So you're not just going to kick that door down and go, move over, guys, but ultimately it's more like co-petition than competition anyway, because there's room for people who are doing different things and have different value propositions. So that's kind of my very whistle stop on PIP founding, how it became a community rather than an event, and then the upsides of that. I mean, Helen is best placed to talk about all of that stuff because of Property Sisters as well, but also maybe it's an absolute honour to have someone like Helen give her time and effort to PIP that she does. So maybe she'd tell us why she bothers really at this point, because I'm sure lots of people would love us to ask her that question anyway.
I think you've said so much there, and actually it's different. It's different to a lot of the stuff, and that's how I got into property, was rocking up at some of these London events and going around and working out, what I did like, there was a lot of what I didn't like and wasn't going to go back to, especially working in a room and being sold at from the moment that I got in there, and people asking me, what's your area, what's your strategy? I'm like, oh God, this is so not for me. But it's for me, Pip, it's the people. Yes, you have great quality information and talk and speakers and everything, but actually it's the culture that you've created. It's such a friendly and supportive community, and there's always somebody in it who can get an answer. I say that, we've talked about Property Sisters, and we're live on our YouTube right now, and that's the same. There's such a wealth of knowledge in there that even if somebody in the community doesn't have the answer, somebody will know somebody, and we'll be able to get there. And everybody's just willing to help. It's the difference of exactly what you said, rather than competition, like co-petition. We don't do it kind of regularly, but I try and encourage the kind of on a Friday, everybody to share wins of the week, because that just keeps me going. I love hearing about all the successes that other people are having. Even if you're in a miserable week yourself, you hear about what someone else is doing, and you're so happy, and that can reinvigorate you and give you enthusiasm again. So PIPs like that, everybody's really happy for you when you achieve things as well. It's just it's supportive rather than that people trying to knock you down the whole time, which I do. Maybe it's business, maybe it's London, I don't know. But I have come across elements of that before. It's
interesting you say that, because when I did, we've not mentioned my MBA, and we're nearly 10 minutes in, so let's just throw it in here. But when I did my MBA, I did a module about psychology of investing, and I did a module about did a couple of corporate finance modules as well. And the guy who taught the corporate finance taught the basics of corporate finance, but then he was very much a psychology and behavioral finance guru. And he'd written an article about 4% of CEOs are psychopaths. You might have seen that over the years. He was one of the main men in that article, and he'd shared it with it. And he was very, very like a lot of academics can be, deeply theoretical person, lifelong professor. So his real frustration was there was stuff that was correct that wasn't necessarily communicated or acted upon, and so he would get a bit stuck, really, because he shared that research with people like Goldman Sachs. I know one of the companies that he named, and they said, "Oh, yeah, this is great stuff. What's this personality type? We want to recruit those people." Because that's, I know and he was gutted that that's what they did, but they were like, "This is fantastic. Thank you very much." And it's just, do you want to be in that sharp-elbowed environment, or do you want to be, because there's no right and wrong there. In fact, if Goldman's works for you, be as dysfunctional as you want to be and as hedonistic as you want to be and whatever else, or maybe have a normal life like some of us would prefer, and also don't have to watch your back every 30 seconds as well, which is nice. So that's the kind of parallel I'd probably draw on the back of that, Helen.
With one exception, personally, that I know, you can tell generally, God, I'm going to get annihilated for this, you can tell Goldman's people a mile off. You can. They have a whole different, let's call it energy. But you can honestly, you can tell them.
They have a certain je ne sais quoi, do they, Helen?
I can still tell them a mile off. They I don't know, they smell different or something. But you're like, I guarantee that person at some point in their life worked for Goldman's. You can just honestly. I do say the same about people from Cambridge University as well, though. So there you go.
Of course you do.
I mean, we got involved in Partners in Property London very early doors. I think Piotr more than myself, but I think what actually drew us both in was the fact that it was kind of community led and driven more than, there wasn't a salesy, coursey kind of aggressive vibe to it.
But also the thing that kind of got us together, even for those calls, like for the calls that we're doing now, it's like we all met probably at Brendan Quinn's events or somewhere close by.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a lot of community around those events. And you could expect when you go to Brendan's events, you'd expect that you're going to meet some good people. Yeah. And it's going to be very kind of safe environment.
The best story is I don't think Helen was there perhaps, but all of us were at the Brendan's Property Development Summit. And he was basically giving a section to people who'd won Developer of the Year or something like that of the year at the Property Investor Awards. So up rocks Ross Harper after whatever happened the night before. And I choose not to remember. I'm scarred for life. But I managed to make it back at this event at like 9:30 in the morning. These two roll in at like 1:30, 2 o'clock, fresh as daisies. Then out of nowhere, Ross just delivers this talk that he's just designed on his phone. Right? It was unbelievable. Pictures, scrolling through it. He hadn't realized that the people in the first 3 rows, he'd melted their faces off with awesomeness. Right? He hadn't even clued it up. Anyway, one of the chaps that was there was like running like was a finance guy. And basically, Ross was probably grateful that Brendan had given him a platform to share the deal. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Oh, wow.
He couldn't take the praise.
He couldn't take the praise. No, he's a humble chap. So he basically approached this broker, I think a broker, property finance guy, and said, "Oh, it would be great while you're here. Why don't you take out a table and like advertise your services?" So he basically, Ross organizes this whole thing, goes up to Brendan and says, "I've got this chap who's happy to kind of advertise at this event." And Brendan was like, "Oh, the event's like halfway through." He goes, "Yeah, he doesn't mind." And basically, Ross told him, oh, it's this amount, and you should have seen Brendan's face. He was like, no, it's only this to advertise here. And like Ross had arranged like 10 times the advertising rate. And
Of course he had.
like it was, I think it was like £5,000 or something like that. And Brendan didn't know where to put himself. It's like, no, it's only £500. You've never seen someone like panic so much that someone might have to overpay. And we joke about it a lot, how uncomfortable like that, and how awesome Ross was to put that together in like 3 minutes flat, or possibly even less. But how uncomfortable Brendan was. Like, no, it's only £500. I've never seen anything like it. But it just goes to show, like, Brendan's one of those guys where he's been doing this for ages, and there is no course to sell. There is like the commercial property summit.
I think what more it shows that someone from this company was willing to pay 5K because there was a good community around it, and there was a good group of people to advertise to. I think that's more of a kind of important thing to notice from this whole story, because it's people want to advertise, like, people want to like connect with like good communities, because once you do something good with one person, you probably are going to do more business with 5 different people on the back of that. So I think that's the key thing.
Absolutely. Can I say about the purpose of this call or this chat was perhaps to highlight something that happened this week that was quite amazing, where, and I won't name names, but somebody in one of the WhatsApp groups talked about quite openly about feeling down, feeling low, a deal that they'd worked on. It wasn't actually a property deal, it was a business deal, a deal that they'd worked on for quite a long period of time, and was obviously pretty important to them. I think had fallen apart was the gist of it. And that person was pretty depressed, pretty down, pretty low. So we do get all these wins on a Friday and people celebrating what they do and talking about all these fantastic deals. But you don't as often have people, it wasn't really a cry for help, but it was just sharing. And what I noticed as you watched the messages coming in was just how strong the whole community thing was around the problems that they were having. Around how to get around those problems, and how the kind of mental health side of it was just absolutely stunning to watch. And it was mind-blowing. The answers were absolutely incredible. Now, they didn't help with the problem, but I've got her message later in the day or the following day, which was basically that actually having thought it all through and read all the comments, that they think now it was actually a good thing because they could see how strong the community was. And that something going wrong had actually shown them exactly what being part of something was. It just made me realise how much better it is to have a group of people that are going through the same trials and tribulations, having been through it. It's not just about making money, and it's not just about doing deals. And we talk about deals every day. And every time we're on these calls, we're all talking about all these houses we buy and things we flip and trade or things that we invest in. But actually, the community part of it for there was overwhelmingly about people. It's basically giving people somewhere safe to share, which is partly why I got involved with PIP in the first place. Apart from the fact that it was Adam and Sue that were doing it, it was to give me a chance to talk to people. So if there were problems or things I needed resolved, I could get help with doing that. But it was also just to have that social interaction, because I think the way that we all trade and flip, it's actually quite hard for people to find people they can talk to about what they do, especially if you're trying to buy deals. That's a really, really tough thing. I had to go to Birmingham to sit and talk to people because there was nobody else to talk to about it here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something in Property Sisters that we found as well. Like I shared, with permission, I shared a message, made it into a post this week about kind of somebody was having like a bit of imposter syndrome. She'd done a podcast and was like, oh my God, I should have done this, and was beating herself up. And again, all of the community rushed in to say, me too, I've been through this. Read this book's great, and to see the support. And that's exactly part of why we set up Property Sisters as well, and why it's just for women. And obviously, clearly, look, I do this, I'm not, there's no man haters there. We love working with men, we're in property, that's part of it. But we did that because even me, with my background and the trading floor and and basically all male university college, would walk into those property meets in London, and there's 99 men, you're the 1 or 2 women, And it can be intimidating, even for somebody, you know, as feisty as me. And we're like, actually, if I'm a little bit reticent to put my hand up, then other people most definitely are. And if we can create a community where you can ask stupid questions, or you can just say exactly that, like, I'm struggling, I'm feeling low, you know, have I done the right thing here? And people can just share that. People can say, actually, yeah, I've done that too, or I've struggled with that. Exactly what you said, Ross, about just being understood, knowing it's not just you. And we especially saw that through lockdown as well. I think Property Sisters really came into its own there when we had weekly meetings at that point, because just to keep that connection in what, again, as you say, is quite a lonely business, or can be quite a lonely business.
One of the things that we did, we set up the Auction Buyers Club, and we sought out a fair bit of advice. Actually, we asked Adam and Ross to look over some of the bits that we're doing and sense check some of the things that were put together and how to kind of structure things, which was massively helpful. But it's a real micro community, you know. Whereas Pip probably nationally has got a good 300 or 400 members, and I guess Property Sisters probably a couple of hundred there as well, maybe even a little bit more across Property Sisters and the Little Sisters group. You know, with the Auction Buyers Club, it's 12 people plus us. So it's a real micro. So it's kind of the idea is that it's creating that camaraderie that you guys are talking about. But we focus. There's definitely a community because everyone's, believe it or not, there's an application process, right? And when people apply, it's like, oh, I'm looking to do this, and there are so many people with that synergy where they're all looking to do roughly the same things, maybe to achieve different outcomes or whatever it may be. But we really do focus on you know, celebrating the wins. You know, in the last couple of months, there have been some really truly amazing things that have been done. There was a couple of underwrites that's been done in the last 3 months that were really impressive, and one of them looked like it was going to go belly up, and we're like, okay, well, how do you solve this? This is who you approach, blah blah blah. And then when it came through, it's like, okay, well done, let's carry on, let's do this, let's do that. And it's that kind of stuff, because auctions, you know, for every property you go to bid for an auction, and I think Adam's probably mentioned this on his supplement this week. I haven't had a chance to go through it yet. But for every property that I feel bad. Look, unless it's a dissertation size, 5,000 words or more. I mean, what do you want from me? No. But the reality is, like, for every property that you go and bid, every 10 properties that you go and bid on, you're probably not going to win more than 4 or 5, like 5 maximum, unless you're really kind of plugging the capital in and you're really potentially overpaying or beating your maximum bid price. No, so. Actually, it's a love of attrition auction. It's not a war of attrition. It's a love of attrition. You kind of just have to keep going until you succeed. But when you succeed and you buy it at the right price and you're structured correctly, the results can be absolutely phenomenal. So there's a lot of hard work that they're working towards. It could be 3 months where they don't buy anything. They're focusing and they're doing their research, and they're looking for a specific asset. They're paying attention to some of the undercurrents that happen in certain auctions or in certain areas, and they're trying to find that competitive edge. And that's kind of the micro community that we've created. But that community element is massive, because I think we had one iteration, or because people kind of churn in and out, it's a very low churn, but churn in and out. We had a little while ago 1 or 2 members where you could just tell that they weren't really feeling it. They weren't really part of the group, or they had kind of like contra intentions. I think one of them had been described as someone who just wanted to take, you know, the knowledge and experience that everyone had, or wanted to take time and do, but would never give anything in return. And we've kind of really kind of clamped down on that in terms of the application process and the interview that we do, because we realized that a good chunk, you know, a good third, if not a good 2/4, or good half of the value is actually good. That shows my math skills on a Sunday morning.
8/16, I'd say, mate.
That's 8/16. That's even better. But a good chunk of that is actually the value of the group. You know, we add some of the structure and some of the knowledge and some of the experience, but actually, you get a bad apple in any group, and it can turn quickly. So we actually
Well,
we really kind of stepped up,
you know,
kind of focusing on
don't,
that.
don't you think that comes back to the whole point about Goldman's, not to go back into running them down again, but wherever you invest your time, efforts, and energies, ultimately, and that might be in your job, it might be in your communities you choose to be a part of, it might be charities you support, it might be whatever, but that community value, that network value, is really needed. So if you put yourself around good people, good things happen. What's the cheesy version of saying that is the old, your network is your net worth, or whatever, isn't it? But of course it's beyond that. Unless your net worth doesn't just mean money, it means your net worth to society and the people around you, in which case I can definitely get on board with that. And it's so true. So you have to be quite careful about what you select on the way in, don't you, rather than it just ends in a 7 plus VAT and you just sort of saddle on in there. If you don't make decisions like that, well, you're going to have to look at yourself for first person to blame, I'm afraid.
I think I've mentioned this before. There was an interview with Bob Marley where the interviewer had asked him, "Oh, so are you rich?" And Bob Marley just stopped and said, "What do you mean rich? How do you mean rich?" He goes, "Oh, do you have like houses, cars, money?" He goes, "Oh, if that's what you mean by rich, then no, I'm not rich. If you mean by the people I have around me, the family, the friends, the community, then yes, I'm a rich man. But I'm not rich in the way you mean rich." And that's something that's important. That's all words make sense with the right kind of context and the right level of clarity. I think
Some
that's
really
very
brilliant.
missing.
Some really brilliant stuff has come from some great musicians. I remember seeing Bowie get interviewed once, and they were talking about he was talking about subjects like inequality. The interview was in about 1989. I mean, it stands up today as a really wonderful piece of a really wonderful piece of work. Not because of the interviewer, but he was just unbelievable.
Well, I think we're knocking on the door at 10:30, which means myself and Adam are going to have to disappear.
And let other people speak for a change. That's good. That's good
Yeah.
stuff.
The people will now actually see the fact that we're just a couple of blowhards and there's a lot more value in the room when we sit down and shut up.
So this is a bit where Piotr tells them in the comments, just fast forward to 27:30 and we start getting on with it. Yeah, of course. Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye,
See you
Adam.
next week, guys. Have a great day.
Okay,
and then
nice
there were
one.
3.
Oh, that's going to change the layout a little bit. But,
yeah, that looks a lot better on the screen. I'm now hammered.
Oh, nice one. Yeah. So I think that the communities that we're part of, like what Jay said just now, I think what really defines like what the community is going to be like is like when you're setting it up, like when you speak to people that you respect and you kind of get on with, like what comes out from those conversations. And like when we're setting up this Auction Buyers Club, it was clear like what we want to achieve and how we want to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's a kind of matter of selecting whether people are, or like letting people choose if they agree with like what the community stands for or not.
Yeah, that direction.
I think it's also how you manage these things going forward, isn't it? So very often having the good idea and getting something up and running is all nice and well. If I get involved with PIP, I remember it's a really good thing, and it was quite fluffy, if that makes sense. It had lots of good morals and lots of good things that you could think were good about. It was actually managing that process going on. I won't mention names, but I remember one of the speakers that somebody had booked for one of the things, and I knew they were doing things in the background that I didn't agree with, and then we couldn't distance ourselves from the speaker because they'd already been given their, or said they were going to give their time and things, but we policed the situation to make sure they didn't really have much access to the groups. We policed the situation in terms of warning people within the group. So this person speaking, if you're thinking that you could tell who was interested and who wasn't, if you're thinking to be very aware, be careful, not trying to suggest that they've done anything wrong, but just be aware that you might be losing money if you do this, because other people have lost money on various similar things. And policing it all the way through is actually the hardest part, because I think, as you were saying earlier about, or as Jay was saying, about getting the right type of people. When you've got bigger groups, it's hard because people are joining that you don't know. You do get to know them though, which is good.
Yeah. And Helen, how do you find working with and managing the Property Sisters? Because you've got quite a big group, right? And quite a big community.
Yeah, we do, but we've kind of actually changed because of kind of things like that, Ross, like the way that we kind of have people join, and now somebody has to be recommended by 2 existing members to join. So we've made it more, it's not quite an application issue, you have to fill in stuff. It's not quite application per se, but we have been more selective because of exactly that, something that you brought up, that a few people joined. There was nothing sinister or everything, but they were purely there to take. That there was no reciprocation. They popped up and had lots of questions, absolutely fine. Like, that's what it's there for. We're there to share information and support each other. But then they'd go around and tout for business among the sisters. And we are non-profit. It doesn't cost anything to join. That's why it's kind of very kind of informal. But we're not there to be kind of raped and pillaged for business. That's not what we've set it up for. And we kind of actively discourage that. It's that community is not there to be sold to.
Yeah.
And so we have had some of that. So we've had to have kind of a quiet word. And yeah, I'd have liked to, full disclosure, I'd have liked to expel a few people, but then I'm a bit hardcore like that.
But just expelling people is good because it lets everybody know what the bar is, doesn't it? But I suppose other people, it's hard then. People are drawing conclusions that you might not actually think. It's difficult. I know there was a couple of messages last week we were talking about developers and things where we'd seen things going on, and there were other people putting the other side of the story and messages afterwards. So there are 2 sides to every story. You have to understand that. But I think we've had a few interesting discussions with Adam and Sue and Shabazz and Rod around certain things. And ultimately, it just comes back to what's there for the greater good. Is it there for the good of one person, or is it there for the good of the 400 members? What's the best thing to do in that instance? You've always got to obviously fall on the side of the members, don't you? That's the whole purpose of having it.
Are you saying something, Alan, or was it?
No, agreeing with Ross that it's about
unusual.
Yeah, it's about like the bigger community, isn't it? And that's where shout out to Ruth. Ruth keeps me kind of balanced about these things when I get a little bit feisty. And also Claire and Carolina for setting it all up.
So you're the one that actually sets fire to people? Is that the way it works? And they keep you back?
Yeah, they come along with the extinguishers. But it is you do need that kind of balance of I couldn't be kind of just doing it on my own, by any long shot. You do need that group and that support and that input and different perspectives, and that's echoed in the bigger community.
Yeah, but I've enjoyed actually the giving side of it. I had a few calls last week with people because of my care home business who were interested in getting into children's care homes. And a lot of the call was just trying to say to them, look, it's much, much tougher than it looks. It's not just buying a property and getting people into it. And it's a really, my business that business is going well. But the reality of it is it's taken 4 years to get it to be going well, and there's lots of highs and lows. So you were sitting talking to people about the pitfalls of doing a business and really saying to them, yeah, great if you can do it and you can get it going. But the reality of it is it's a long, hard slog from here. So if you're a novice investor and you haven't run businesses before and you want to get into it, it's going to be incredibly tough because you're going to have to fund it, as we've done, fund it for 4 years, got to get it going, got to do it. But in reality, all you were doing was saying to them, all I was doing was giving them all the pitfalls that we've endured over the last 4 years and saying, your eyes are open. It would be great if you can do it, and absolutely amazing, and all credit to you because there's a really strong benefit to that type of business. You feel good about it. But the reality of it is there are massive downfalls to trying to set that type of thing up as well. But that's kind of free information these guys are getting, But you're not selling on the course on how to do this. You're not trying to. There's nothing being made from it. I was sitting on a beach having one of the calls. It wasn't the end of the world, and they are nice people. So you want to be giving the right information. You want to be talking. You want to be helping them, and you want to see them get on. Yeah. Which I assume is the same for Property Sisters.
Yeah, exactly. And having access to somebody with that level of experience and information, is just, geez, that's worth, I don't know, whatever PIP charges now, like 50 quid a month or something. It's like that's the biggest bargain of the century, isn't it? It's like to have that access to that level of information experience.
And I also think that, like for me, when I was like starting in property, like when I saw all sorts of kind of workshops and courses that I was considering joining, when I was considering them on the kind of merit of the person that was running it, but at the same time, when I actually was doing the courses, like what I found is the most important kind of element of it was actually speaking to the people inside, like that were like obviously the person running the thing, it's an important part of it, but it's like I got a lot from like creating partnerships with people in the mastermind that I was part of, and just kind of people that I was meeting on a daily or monthly basis. That was where the most value was coming from. So I think based on that, like when we join community, might join because of one person or two people, but then the actual real value is from all of the people that are part of it, because we go through all sorts of different things in property, and there will always be someone different with different experiences. So what's great about community is that there's a variety of experiences and a variety of like expertise inside of it, and yeah, that's kind of what
so
I find.
that's really interesting, because pre-COVID, I used to twice a year. This is actually the first time I met Jay, although he worked at Auction House, and I've got Auction House franchises. I hadn't met him before, but pre-COVID, I used to go on 2 courses, normally weekend courses a year, paid for by other people, and I quite often went to ones where, the people themselves weren't the important part of it, but what they were trying to train people on was quite interesting. But the whole thing was to go and build your network and meet people and talk to the people sitting beside you and seeing what it was all about. And that situation only gets sort of made better by continually doing it. If you're speaking to somebody every week or every month, it's a really, really good thing.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. I get a lot of people asking me kind of how to start out in property. And obviously I can't speak to that from a real beginner level, because I came into it from a different career with money behind me, and I've gone my own kind of sweet way on this. But when they're kind of trying to work out kind of what they want to do or what aspect they want to get into, the first thing I say to them is like, go and join PIP, go and join, like Danny Inman's got Prosperity Network, go and join a quality, and a community with integrity, but go out there and find it, because that is the cheapest and quickest way to learn about all the different stuff, but also to make the connection with decent people that is going to pay dividends. And like you say, the ongoing involvement, you sow those seeds, and actually that starts coming back to you, after a certain amount of time. I saw me and Claire Norwood, who's also one of the co-founders of the Property Sisters, we had a moment like a few years in, and we're like, oh my God, all those coffees, all those meetups, all that time and effort we'd put into kind of building and going, meeting people and building connections, like just started coming in and paying dividends, and people wanted to help us and connect us and give us deals, and for her investors, and that stuff, can be kind of an energy and time drain at the beginning, but actually reaps dividends later on.
That's right. I'm finding the same thing when I moved to Lisbon and kind of lived here and travel to London every now and then to have meetings and do stuff. But kind of when I moved to a new place, it's like you have to start building your new communities. And I see it so much like how important this is, because at the start, like no one, and or like very few people, but it's kind of difficult to get things going. But when I start meeting people like the beach volleyball community,
why did you go to the beach volleyball club? I wonder, Pure. Why did you choose that? Is it?
Because that's what I do. Like,
right, okay.
But that's another thing. It's a physical thing, but it's also a very social sport. So it is, yes, yeah. I highly recommend.
And what are you now, part of the ladies' beach volleyball club or something?
I'm the coach.
Coach.
Water boy.
They whatever position they had available, to get into community. Anyway. No, but it's like even like the business community, or there's like a quite big cryptocurrency and blockchain community in Lisbon, and just kind of meeting all those people, it just expands and accelerates everything. Like for me, how many people I know, how many people I can do things with, and yeah, I just find it fascinating because it's easy to talk about things from the past, but like this is actually very present. Like how
Yeah.
I'm building like a new communities around here. Yeah, it's
And I did the same in Malta as well. Like, and actually, Ross, you must be finding that in Dubai as well. A whole new.
Absolutely.
We've all uprooted ourselves and plonked ourselves somewhere else. And
But if you look at this call is generated by property in England and communities in England. But the three of us, none of us are in England just now. It's bizarre.
yeah.
But definitely we found coming here, people have welcomed us with open arms. It's been really nice. There's quite a big expat community. And because it's quite hard to do business here, people have been super helpful. So we've actually slotted in and fitted in quite well with all that sort of thing. My liver's thinking maybe a wee bit too well. But that's hopefully about to change. But I think the one thing I did notice for the first couple of months when I was here was I felt lonely because I felt quite divorced from everything. And there's only so much social media you can consume. There's only so many videos you can watch. The actual getting the interaction, which was one of the things I was really keen to get this call going again on a Sunday, because quite often this is the only time I talk like this, or I get the chance to talk to people, and it's great having four friends that you can sit and talk and you can chat to about things, and there is a focus to it, which is it has been a really, really good thing for me. But that's relying on your community, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, I kind of struggled a bit with that during, the past couple of years, like not being able to go back and forth to the UK.
Yeah.
Like when I first moved to Malta, part of the reason for moving to Malta was that it's so bleeding close and easy. There's 20 flights a day I could get, jump on a plane, I'm there in 3.5 hours. And I was there like a week London, a week Malta when I was first there. That got too much. But last year I didn't go back to London for 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't back there till the summer, and actually I really missed, like physical. I'm quite kinesthetic. I really missed like physically hugging, Claire and Carolina and Ruth and the girls and you boys. So that was challenging for me to just be kind of separated, And Zoom's great and everything, but it's not quite the same, is it?
No. It's good for long distance and stuff like that. But I had this call with someone over Zoom, I think it was July, and we were talking about the Auction Buyers Club. And out of that call, I seemed interested, but was like not much. And he's quite I would say, big hitter in property and kind of business community. And but then when I came to London and I set up a meeting with them, it was like just a coffee meeting, a lunch meeting, but energy was so different. And literally, like I think in an in-person meeting, you can so much like quicker make decisions and kind of commit to things because of like everything else you're getting apart from just a conversation. So it's been different with Zoom, but I think right now it's easier to start meeting people, seeing people again.
Mm-hmm. What would life have been like without Zoom though, through a pandemic? It must have been horrific.
It would be awful,
Or these types of being able to do this and talk on your phone. Who'd have thought you could do everything on your phone at the same time? Go banking, buy things, talk to people. It's bizarre. But it does make the world a smaller place.
Yeah, much.
Yeah, maybe we should one day do this Sunday special live in one location.
Or come to Mexico. It's really cool here.
It's a bit early there.
Oh my god, it is like it's
It's quarter to 3 here in the afternoon.
Oh wow!
6 in the morning here.
Well, I'm lucky enough to be in the same time zone as UK, so I don't have to do all this.
That's a benefit later, isn't it?
Massive benefit, yeah. Not the key thing that I would choose Portugal over, but one of them.
No, it's a beach volleyball club. We understand. Don't worry.
Priorities.
Priorities, indeed. Yes. Cool, good stuff. Well, is there anything else we can discuss on the aspects of community or another?
Adam specifically said don't discuss anything else without him being here.
No, I think we'll kind of discuss this community, and I think everyone gets a bit of a flavor about what the values of communities are, and like any type of community, wherever you are, whether that's property systems, partners in property, or that some of the things that we do. But I also think communities are very interconnected. So it's like if you're part of one community, doesn't mean you cannot be part of another
Absolutely.
community.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And how those communities like communicate together is really really important. So
Yeah, like we've all spoken at PIP, and then you've done videos for Property Sisters, and there's a lot of crossover when you find your tribe doesn't just have to be one group, does it? It's a great point.
Yeah. All right, brilliant. Well, let's be back next week, hopefully with the full team.
I'm not here next week. It's just the four of you. I'll be deep in meditation, much as I would love to be here. I'll be deep in my meditation.
Does that mean you're sleeping?
I wish.
So you're going to be deep in meditation at 4:30 in the morning somewhere?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, in the middle of a 4-hour meditation, probably.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Much as I love you.
Yeah. Well, we'll be sending you the vibrations.
Yes, send to you.
We'll teach you how to do it, Ross. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
In our workshop on sending vibrations before.
Right. Okay.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for your comments, and see you all next week.
See you next week. Bye.